looks like a bite or something.
Jesse? Jesse, are you okay?
What?
Oh, stop bloody, see? Oh my God. Please tell me that it's not a toenail.
She thinks something's evil around me.
Look. God.
Something possessed Christy and then Katie. The ones that are marked,
Oh my God.
they become the permanent hosts.
Jesse. Jesse!
Paranormal Activity, The Marked Ones. In theaters January 3rd.
Hello and welcome to Time About the Movies, and today we are beginning a brand new year, 2014. It's our but before we get to the new releases of the year, we'll have one new release today, but we have our 2013 leftovers as per usual, and as you can see, not a whole lot of notable ones, but still some ones we're talking about here. Overall, we're going to take a look at about 9 movies today, including our first movie here, the biggest of the new releases, which you just saw right there. Paranormal Activity, The Marked Ones, the 5th installment of the series, which is also a spin-off of the Paranormal Activity series as well. So this one kind of continues from the post-credit scene from Paranormal Activity 4. You have a young boy by the name of Jesse who begins experiencing a number of disturbing and unexplainable things after the death of his neighbor, and as he investigates, it isn't long before Jesse finds he's been marked for possession by a malevolent demonic entity, and it's only a matter of time before he is completely under its control. So, this is supposed to be a different story from the Paranormal Activity world, and yet, by the end of it, it kind of ties everything back together again to the original Paranormal Activity series. In a way, it kind of reminds me of, remember that movie, The Curse of La Llorona, which was made by the same people behind The Conjuring, and they were saying beforehand, no, this has nothing to do with The Conjuring in general here. This is its own separate universe, and then when people saw the movie, they realized, motherfucker, it was set in the Conjuring universe, because it literally ties back to the Conjuring with the Warrens even in that movie. That's what happens with this movie in general here, and that's kind of the flaw of the film, especially towards the end where it's literally tying back to the first movie where you have Katie and Micah in there, and it turns out the reason Katie was screaming so much, it was because one of the guys was there. From the Marked Ones in the air, so it's kind of supposed to tie back to everything there. But there was also another ending where it ties back to Paranormal Activity 3. So yeah, it's very confusing overall, and that's really the biggest flaw of the movie. But surprisingly, it's actually not a bad movie overall. It is a very enjoyable film, and it works when it's not trying to tie back to the original movie. And I like the fact that you follow these characters overall, and they do a lot of the same tropes as the other Paranormal Activity movies do, but they do it in a way where it's actually kind of unique and very different compared to the other films in general. I mean, it also helps when you have a director like Christopher Landon coming in here, who of course will later go on to direct the Happy Death Day to You movies, Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse, Freaky, Drop recently. I mean, the guy is a very solid horror director, and while this isn't perfect, it's a perfect indication of what is going to show down the road with him later on. And it works really well. I think it's a good film when it's not trying to tie back to the original films and being its own thing. I think it works, but when it ties back into the series, in the way it does, it kind of feels forced. But nevertheless, it feels like an entertaining film all across the board. Certainly is a lot better than the one that Paramount tried to dump on us 2 years ago with The Devil Inside. I mean, at least this one isn't giving you an ending where it says, go to this website, which is not available anymore, and find out more information. And even if you go to that website, it doesn't really give you any information that you didn't already know already. But yeah, overall, pretty good film. So that's Paranormal Activity, The Marked One. So let's go ahead and move on to our list here. And we have a couple of HBO movies this year. HBO had a couple of notable films worth talking about. Starting off with our first one here, Al Pacino as Phil Spector.
Did you kill that girl?
For what am I being punished? For being the most successful music producer in the history of the world.
He did it. This is, of course, based off the story of it's based on the murder trials of record producer, songwriter, and musician Phil Spector, played here by Al Pacino, and Helen Mirren stars as the defense attorney Lindsay Kenny Baden, and Jeffrey Tambor as the defensive attorney Bruce Cutler, and focuses primarily on the relationship between Spector and Kenny Baden, his defense attorney in 2007, during the first of his 2 murder trials for the 2003 death of Lana Clarkson in his California mansion, and is billed as an exploration of the client-attorney relationship between Spector and Kenny Baden. This was met with a lot of controversy for fictionalizing aspects of the case and for neglecting significant evidence that was presented by the real-life prosecution, leading to accusations that the movie was created as an advocacy piece in Spector's favor, even though he had no involvement in the film whatsoever. And this is a movie where you get hooked on it right away because, one, it's Al Pacino and Helen Mirren. I mean, how can you go wrong with that cast there? But this is also written and directed by David Mamet. And we've talked about a lot of David Mamet's work on this channel, and I really do like a lot of his movies. He's made some of my favorite movies in general. But here, this one really isn't one of his stronger movies, and it's mostly because of that right there. The fact that they fictionalized it, they took basically the safe route and decided not to do a hard depiction of what really happened in this case in general here. And I wouldn't be really against that overall, except the fact that this is HBO. HBO is uncharted territory where you have free range to do whatever you want to do, and nobody can really say and do anything about it with standards and practices and all that, because HBO has their own set of rules. I mean, this is a network that has shows with full frontal nudity on nearly every single show. Like, you don't really get that with a bunch of other shows in general here, so there's no excuse for really not going into greater details on these things here, but yeah, it's hard not to see why people thought this was really in Phil Spector's favor overall, and not really giving you the cold hard truth about what really happened here. Al Pacino and Helen Mirren are really good in here. Chiwetel Ejiofor is pretty good as the mock prosecutor. Jeffrey Tambor has a lot of good moments in here as well. There is a good cast involved in here. Unfortunately, the script really is the biggest flaw of the film. It's a movie that really can't tell if it really wants to tell a thought-provoking story about what really happened, or is it just something where it wants to make something that looks like it's doing that, but really doesn't want to piss off Phil Spector at all, because, he could sue them even though he's in prison. But, I mean, it's a mixed bag of a movie overall. It's not a great film, but it's not a film where I would say it's terrible. It just has the typical problems with most biopics. It doesn't want to tell you the cold, hard truth about what really happened to these people, but wants to be more safe and marketable. And for HBO, you really expect a lot more than that. And luckily, this was one of their few misfires that came out this year. We're going to get to a couple of the movies they did this year that were actually really, really good. But before we get to the next HBO movie, let's go ahead and move on to our next film, which is Juno Temple and Michael Angarano in The Brass Teapot.
If I had $1 million, I'd stay in bed with you all day.
We're letting people go, John. You're the first.
We have a lot of applicants, all of whom have 10 years experience.
Okay. Things will get better.
You're gonna have an amazing job one day.
The Antiques Roadshow is coming this weekend. Why don't we see if we can find something and get on TV? I'm so sorry for this, John. Look! It gives you money when you hurt yourself.
We have to promise to stop before it gets out of control.
We make our million and we stop. I'll take the full Brazilian. I want it all gone.
Let's do this the old-fashioned way.
So, John, are you still with the same company? We switched to private investing. Well, looks like you're doing all right.
Shabbat Shalom. Where is the teapot? Our grandmother risked her life to save that teapot during the Holocaust.
You have to find out what this thing is.
The teapot possesses extraordinary power.
You are in grave danger.
Most people kill themselves for decades and get nowhere. It's a gift from the gods.
We said we'd stop when it got out of hand. I'd say it's out of hand.
Now tell me, how can you save yourself?
You're turning evil.
There is nothing evil about wanting more.
What's happening to your face? Your eyes like hanging out? I'm fine. Whatever it is that's going on, it's not worth it.
So we didn't warn you.
What sort of dog do you two have? I heard him howling last night.
That was just some really violent sex.
This is a movie that you would honestly swear was supposed to be a mainstream movie. Like, this was supposed to be like a Universal or Columbia Pictures release. It was supposed to star Jim Carrey or, I don't know who was popular at the time, Leslie Mann or as the lead in this. But somehow Magnolia Pictures found this project and said, Okay, we'll take it. I mean, it's literally a movie that feels like one of those mainstream fantasy comedies that you see that Judd Apatow probably would be producing. But no, this is a independent movie, and I gotta admire it for some of the crass ways that it goes with it. You have Juno Temple and Michael Angarano as a down-on-their-luck couple who just lost their jobs, and they come across a magical brass teapot capable of providing them money. The only catch is they must experience pain in order for the teapot to provide. So they decide what they're willing to. They have to decide what they're willing to do, and they're willing to suffer through a lot in order to gain financial security. And that is actually a pretty brilliant setup here, because the only way this teapot can work is if you literally physically beat the shit out of each other or yourself or something like that. And I gotta give the film a lot of credit for going down that route. I think that is a very funny concept in general here. And this thing did not do so well with the critics in general. It was actually very thrashed by them, but screw them, man. I thought this was a ton of fun. I thought this was actually really, really funny. Juno Temple and Michael Angarano actually work off each other very well here. You got a great cast. Also includes Alexis Bledel, Alia Shawkat, Bobby Moynihan, Billy Magnuson, Thomas Middleditch, Kristen Milotti. I mean, a really, really good cast in this film that works all the way through. And it is a really, really funny concept in general here. Just watching these two just literally physically beating the crap out of each other for no other reason except to just make as much money as they can. I think that's a very fun concept overall. I will say this about this film is that the lesson in this movie and the thing that they learned from this isn't really all that amazing. It's kind of something you can kind of see coming a mile away, but hey, despite all that, this is still a really, really damn good movie. It's a really fun film. It was largely forgotten when it came out, but if you want to see some early works from Juno Temple and Michael Angarano in terms of what they can do as actors, this film definitely will do that for you. This is a really solid film. I really enjoyed it a lot. It's definitely worth checking out. The Brass Teapot. So let's go ahead and head back to HBO for a film that is going to be much more daring than Phil Spector is. Steven Soderbergh's supposed last film, we'll touch on that in a second, Beyond the Candelabra.
Gentlemen, Liberace.
Wow. You were incredible.
Why don't you come work for me?
As what?
I need a companion, someone I can talk to. Alone at last. This is my houseboy.
Michael Douglas.
I'm so sorry I'm so informal.
Matt Damon. Behind the Candelabra.
I want to do some surgery on Scott. I want him to look like this.
So yeah, this actually was given a cinematic release over in the UK, and I think also Canada too, because that's the E1, and I think E1's a Canada company, but this was marketed as Steven Soderbergh's final film, which turned out not to be true, because even to this day, he's still making movies, and he's made some of the best movies of this past year. Black Bag, Presence was pretty good too, so yeah, it's kind of good that this wasn't his last film overall. Not to say it's bad or anything, but I mean, Steven Soderbergh had a pretty good 2013, too, because he had Side Effects before this, which was one of my favorite films of the year. And this film really is very good. It's based on the 1988 book about the last 10 years in the life of pianist Liberace, played by Michael Douglas, and the relationship he had with Scott Thorson, who wrote the book, who's played here by Matt Damon. You also have a cast that includes Dan Aykroyd, Scott Bakula, Rob Lowe, and Debbie Reynolds in her last performance before she died in 2016. And it really does work. It's a really engaging movie that works because Michael Douglas is so committed to this movie, and so is Matt Damon. They work off each other very well. They're part of a really good cast overall, and it really does work all across the board here. And Steven Soderbergh's directing abilities just makes it work in general as a whole. And I said Debbie Reynolds, this was the last thing she did before she died. This was the last thing Marvin Hamlish did before he passed away, the great composer Marvin Hamlish, because he died in August of 2012, and he put the score together, and it works very well here. Something else I thought that was very interesting in looking up the research for this, you know who originally wrote the script for this? Jason Friedberg and Aaron Seltzer. This was originally developed back in 1999 as a biopic that would have been written by Jason Friedberg and Aaron Seltzer. Can you imagine what would have happened if this movie had gone down that route? Like, that would have been really, really awful, but also kind of amusing to watch, to see how they would have ruined this. I mean, this was before they became the spoof movie jokers, but, I mean, it just feels really, really odd that they were attached to something like this, but nevertheless, this is still a really good movie. Michael Douglas and Matt Damon work great together. Michael Douglas, you can see why he won the Emmy for this. I mean, you can see why this won the miniseries or movie Emmy as well. It's a terrific film. It's one I can't recommend enough. It's one of Steven Soderbergh's more more enjoyable I say more enjoyable, most of his movies are enjoyable except for Ocean's 12, and also Contagion, but this is a really solid film all across the board. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. If you're a Soderbergh fan, you're going to love the hell out of it. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, and that is The Canyons. With a trailer that makes it look like the start of the Californians on Saturday Night Live is about to begin, the Californians, and I'm expecting Bill Hader to come on screen and go like, "What are you doing here?" with that beach blonde hair of his. But no, this is an interesting movie to look up the research for, because supposedly this thing shot out was when I looked for the trailer for this, I'll say this. The trailer I looked for online, the first trailer that came up was for a movie in 2009, and I thought that this was that film. And it was not that film. This was a completely different movie altogether. This was a film that Bret Easton Ellis made with a Kickstarter. And, of course, this was directed by Paul Schrader. Good old Paul Schrader. We haven't heard from him in a while. But this is a movie where it is an erotic thriller with Lindsay Lohan in the starring role. And it's a story about a Christian who's an LA trust fund kid with casual ties to Hollywood who learns of a secret affair between Tara, played by Lindsay Lohan, and the lead of his feature project, Ryan. He spirals out of control, and his cruel mind games escalate into an act of bloody violence. So it's an erotic thriller, but it's also kind of a horror movie, too. It's a very confusing film in general here. This is, as I mentioned, Bret Easton Ellis, who also, of course, wrote American Psycho and The Rules of Attraction. And needless to say, this is definitely not one of his better films in general. And, the movie it's a really odd film in general, because the premise alone is all over the place. And it's a film that really kind of feels like it doesn't have an identity of what it's trying to do. But I will give it this. Lindsay Lohan actually is the strongest thing about this movie. I mean, she really does give it a really solid performance overall that really does carry the film to some level of enjoyment overall, but never to the point where I would say it's a film that definitely needs to be seen. But, I mean, if you want to see Lindsay Lohan in actually good performance and actually uses her talents, especially if you want to see even a better erotic film performance than I Know Who Killed Me, this is definitely that type of film to do it with. You could tell that there was a little bit of an inspiration kind of from the movie Hardcore with George C. Scott and the classic Brian De Palma thrillers of the 80s. But yeah, those movies are fun, are interesting to try to bring back to a modern generation, but you need a better script to work with here. And I think this film in particular really needed a better script to work with. It just really didn't work out in the end. But to its credit, it's worth it to see Lindsay Lohan showing that, hey, she's still got a lot of acting potential here. And while this comeback attempt didn't really work for her, it would work later on down the road for her, about 9 years later with, actually 12 years later with Freakier Friday and all that. But other than that, though, yeah, this movie isn't great, but Lohan overall is probably the best thing about it overall. But in terms of Paul Schrader's other works, this is definitely not one of his better films. It's only worth it to see Lindsay Lohan in it, but other than that, there's nothing really about it that makes me say you should check it out. So with that said, let's go ahead and get back to some HBO movies with the last of the HBO films we have here. Larry David in his first feature film starring role, Clear History. David plays a PR specialist who refuses to market a car called a Howard, a colossal error that loses him $1 billion and makes him a national joke. He loses his hair, shaves his beard, and takes on a new name and moves to Martha's Vineyard. Jump 10 years later, Raleigh is a popular local whose sang-froid evaporates when the Howard investors move to the island. Raleigh, his old self unrecognizable, played by John Hamm, hatches a plan to rid the island of his Raleigh's played by Larry David, plans to rid the island of his nemesis, played by John Hamm. He also decides to woo the billionaire's wife, Fellatio, a former girlfriend. Get it, Fellatio? Yeah, that really wasn't, that's not really a good joke overall. But, anyway. But he decides to woo the billionaire's wife, a former girlfriend, a woman who's lost weight, her boyfriend, the band Chicago, a menacing Chechen, a bus load of ill children, and a pair of ne'er-do-wells who experience with explosives figure into the story. Well, I'm glad they figured into the story because that plot synopsis escalated quickly after that. Good lord, man. But this is a very interesting movie. It's a movie that is very semi-improvised in general. It's a film that knows clearly that, it's a film that clearly knows that it's going to work to Larry David's stuff. Curb Your Enthusiasm style, because this is made by the same people, a lot of the same people who worked on Curb Your Enthusiasm, with the exception of Greg Batalla, who of course directed Superbad, and also features a cast that includes Bill Hader, Philip Baker Hall, John Hamm, Kate Hudson, Michael Keaton, Danny McBride, Ava Mendes, Amy Ryan, J.B. Smoove, and Liev Schreiber, which is interesting with Liev Schreiber because his appearance is only officially uncredited because he was working on HBO's rival network Showtime with Ray Donovan as that was coming onto the air. So I thought that was kind of interesting overall that they would do that. But yeah, it's a very odd movie to say the least. It's a film that definitely is all over the place, but it is kind of interesting to see Larry David taking on this turn in a leading role here, which is kind of against his norm in general here. And he tried to do this a couple years ago with Woody Allen with Whatever Works. And the reason why Whatever Works didn't work, no pun intended, was the fact that you were trying to combine Woody Allen's style of comedy with Larry David's style of comedy, and trying to mesh those two together didn't really work out for that film in particular. But in this film's case, it works just enough. It's not perfect all around. It's not really an amazing film in general here, but it is an intriguing movie to see what Larry David's true acting potential overall can be in this. And like I said, he takes a lot of that improv comedy style that he brings from Curb Your Enthusiasm into this, and it makes for a movie that's good, not great overall. I mean, it's not a bad movie, but it's definitely a film that I think kind of leaves a lot more onto the table in terms of its general story in general. But other than that, though, I liked it. I thought it was pretty good overall. I thought it was very entertaining, but definitely felt like there was so much more that could have been done with it overall. So take that for what you will. But with that said, let's go ahead and get to some DC animated movies, starting off with our first one here, Batman: The Dark Knight Returns, Part 2.
Tonight, we are the law. I am the law.
You act like a criminal.
We are criminals. We always have been.
Look, one of these days, someone with authority is going to tell me to come stop you. And when that happens...
I hereby issue a warrant for the Batman's arrest.
When that happens, may the best man win.
He's a murderer now. Jim, if you've talked to him, you have to let me know.
He and I don't talk anymore.
You have gotten old.
I made you lose control.
All the people I've murdered.
It ends tonight.
Is he dead?
So in continuing the story from The Dark Knight Returns, after a 10-year absence, the Dark Knight has returned to Gotham to fight the mutant threat. After defeating the mutants, he has taken control of a gang loyal to him in order to make Gotham a safer place. But the Joker has decided to stop this. He fights against Batman in a deadly duel. Meanwhile, the Man of Steel is ordered to stop the Dark Knight because the government believes that his ways are wrong. As Batman fights the Joker, the Man of Steel prepares for his greatest fight. And people are prepared for a much better Batman vs. Superman than the actual Batman vs. Superman movie we would get later in the decade. Yeah, needless to say, this movie is pretty awesome. I mean, the first film overall was really entertaining and really did a good job of bringing The Dark Knight Returns to the big screen. And this one definitely continues that trend and then some, especially with the addition of the Joker coming in here. Michael Emerson, once again, giving a really great performance as the Joker. Mark Valley's really good as Superman, playing off to Peter Weller's Batman. And yeah, this is a very entertaining film. It's a really good movie. Great animation all across the board. It's cool to see Batman and Superman beating the crap out of each other. It's just an all-around winner, man. It's a really good film, a really well-done film. The first film in general works really good, and meshing the two films together when they did the movies together in one, they did a good job of bringing the two films together and making it seem fluid and didn't feel like they were really editing it at the last minute. They actually put their efforts into it, and it made for a very entertaining film. I recommend it very highly. Batman: The Dark Knight Returns Part 2. It's great. It's great. If you love the first one, you're going to love this one too. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to the next movie we have here, and that is Superman Unbound.
Kara.
It was only a couple of months ago.
Tell me.
We were helpless. Our army threw everything we had at them, but they were unstoppable. No!
You've seen these before.
A lot of them.
On Krypton?
In Kandor, the capital, the day it disappeared.
A whole city disappeared.
It calls itself Brainiac.
I am flesh and machine. I am the strength of 10,000 worlds.
These probes must be how he searches for planets.
If that thing's here, it's all going to happen again.
No, we can beat him. Millions of lives. They all need to be freed.
Go!
You have already failed. Soon, Earth will be mine.
We'll see about that.
Such a savage world.
It gives me strength. Welcome to Earth.
So this is based off of the 2008 Superman story, Superman Brainiac by Jeff Johns, and follows Superman here voiced by Matt Bomer from White Collar, as he has his unpredictable cousin Supergirl voiced by Molly Quinn by his side. The gritty adventure begins as Superman learns about the ruthless force known as Brainiac, voiced by John Noble of Fringe fame, who has seized and miniaturized Krypton's capital city of Kandor. Determined to liberate this captured metropolis and protect his home planet from Brainiac's increasing powers, Superman takes on his most menacing enemy yet. The other cast also includes Diedrich Bader, Alexander Gould, Francis Conroy, and Stephen Root. And for the most part, I enjoyed the movie, but the biggest downfall, I think, is the animation style on the hero characters. I mean, the last time we saw Superman in his own movie, it may have looked cartoonish, but at least they got how Superman should look in terms of body structure. But here he looks so anorexic. You ever see the How It Should Have Ended Superman shorts? That's what it felt like when I was watching the Superman in general here. Like, it felt like it was made by those same people that made those shorts in general, because it looks way too much like that. And that was supposed to be a parody, and this is supposed to be the real thing. I'll say this too, Lois Lane looks a little bit too emo here in this. Supergirl is fine in this. I mean, she looks pretty much like how you expect Supergirl to be, but the rest is just kind of okay. The animation on the action sequences are kind of cool. They're the best bits of the movie in general. The story does a pretty good job of working towards with what the comics had done with it. This is written by Bob Goodman and actually does a pretty good job of staying true to the story from the comics. And even though the Dark Knight movies were announced as the last films that Bruce Timm would produce on this, it still feels like a lot of his input is still on here, and I would say probably be grateful for that, because once Tim no longer works on these films, the quality does kind of go down fast, and, you know, these really good movies, one by one, become more one-off than what they did when he was still there. But I'll give it its credit. It's a competently made film. I think the script overall is good. The action is nice. The animation on the main characters should have been a little bit better. I think we could have had something really good here, but as it is, it's alright. Definitely one to check out, but don't rush out to see it. So let's go ahead and move on to the last one we have here, Justice League, The Flashpoint Paradox.
World War III. Maybe I could have stopped it. If I just ran a little faster. Faster! The Speed Force allows the Reverse Flash to travel through time.
He changed something in the past.
We have to find out what he changed and change it back before they kill everyone on the planet. In my world, I'm a hero.
You mean like Batman?
No matter how fast you run, you can't save everyone.
We're running out of time.
War's over. Everybody lost.
No!
You'd be amazed the monsters this world can create.
Yet another DC animated movie based off of a story by Jeff Johns, Flashpoint. And in this one here, you have an alteration of the timeline for the superhero, The Flash, that creates ripples that disastrously alters the universe. The Flash must team up with other heroes to restore the timeline while the Earth is ravaged by a war between Aquaman's Atlantis and Wonder Woman's Amazons. And in this one, you have Justin Chambers as the Flash, you have Kevin McKidd as Batman, who's Thomas Wayne in this, C. Thomas Howell as Professor Zoom, Michael B. Jordan as Cyborg in this, and you do have a lot of actors from the previous DC films returning here, like Kevin Conroy's back as Bruce Wayne, Ron Perlman as Deathstroke, now Nathan Fillion as Green Lantern, Dana Delaney as Lois Lane, and D. Bradley Baker as Etrigan. And this is a movie that is, it's a really good movie and probably the best animated film up to this point with the Justice League in it. But the focus on this is mainly on the Flash, hence the Flashpoint in the title of the film. But I still enjoyed this film overall. The animation style is really good. The characters are more naturally animated, unlike Superman Unbound. I mean, nobody looks like a skinny emo equivalent of themselves. I'm looking at you, Lois Lane. But everyone looks like who they should. The action sequences are really good, using the animation to the advantage once again to show off the impressive styles that these action sequences can pull off in the world of animation. And you have a great voice cast here. Like I said, Michael B. Jordan is Cyborg, man. Come on, it's Michael B. Jordan. How can you go wrong on that? There are complaints I have about the film, kind of being a little too violent, and the use of blood feels unnecessary, but I didn't really mind it all that much. I mean, it really doesn't feel any different from other DC animated movies that use excessive violence. The point is that this is to show that even an animated hero movie shouldn't be bound from doing whatever it needs to do to tell a good story with that criticism. It basically says that, yeah, you shouldn't do that. Like, it's kind of a dumb argument. The movie doesn't glorify violence like Zack Snyder's movies will. Like, they glorify violence. I mean, this isn't like Man of Steel or Batman v Superman where, Superman has to kill to save the day. And it's just like, the violence is used to tell the story. It brings the story because it's brought into the story because it's the way the creators want the story to be told. But, I mean, this film in particular, and the Zack Snyder movies will do that, I should say. I probably should have specified that, but Flashpoint Paradox overall is a really good movie. It's probably my favorite of the Justice League animated films that have come up to that point. Strong cast, great story, great action, spectacular animation. Definitely a much better film than Superman Unbound was, that's for sure. So, yeah, check it out. Justice League, The Flashpoint Paradox. And there you go. That's the first weekend of 2014. And looking at my birthday coming up on January 10th next time around, I kind of wish we had more than one movie. But yeah, this one's going to be a rough one to sit through. Not only is it only one movie, but it's not even a good movie. It's the first of 2 Hercules movies released in 2014. This one starring the guy from Twilight, Kellen Lutz, and directed by Rennie Harlin. The Legend of Hercules. Fun. Looking forward to doing that one, not really, tomorrow on the show, so stay tuned for that. But thank you for watching this. If you like what you saw and want to see more videos like this, please go ahead and do me the honors of hitting that like button, that subscribe button, and that notification button. Also, don't forget to check out our playlist, and don't forget to check out the previous episode we did. With all that said, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. Take care.